everyone, welcome once again to Netflix Roulette. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Eric, today we cover The Vanishing, where we find out that sometimes when you roll the roulette wheel, you don't come out on top.
This film is some kind of wonderful.
To whom?
I'm not sure.
So today we're covering a film that I chose, like I said last time, completely just based on the cast. I thought, hey, Jeff Bridges and Kiefer Sutherland, what could go wrong? And apparently the answer to that is everything. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm gonna start off with what I sent you on Facebook after I watched it. I can no longer say that I've never seen Jeff Bridges give a bad performance.
This was a movie that made Eric send me a message basically saying, how dare you?
and then you sent me a message the next day and you're like, I'm 20 minutes into it, I can't do this.
Yeah, I sent you a message back and said, I hate myself. And then the message back from Eric was, you should. So, this movie is a bad slap-together remake of a Dutch film that was put out in '88, but was released in the States in '91 and got favorable reviews in the States. Ebert loved it. And then Ebert reviewed this film and gave it 1 star. I read his review. I read some other things. And the most bizarre thing is that both films are directed by the same person.
But they are not written by the same person, it should be noted.
Yes.
And you did too. I read the synopsis for the original Dutch film. And there's a lot that I have wrong with this film that's still in that film. Maybe it's done better there, but just based on what I saw here, there are just story premise issues that I have.
The way this was eaten up by a spoon, like with a spoon by critics, I mean the Dutch film, almost makes me want to watch it.
Yeah, a little bit just to see what was different.
Yeah. So, the premise of this movie is very simple, which is part of the problem, because it plays like it's genius.
Yeah, it plays like
really
there's a big twist.
Well, and it plays like there's this giant mystery that that we should be really compelled to figure out what it is, and they keep keeping things from us that's not, it turns out not to be that interesting, and I didn't care about anyway because I don't like any of these characters. So let me backtrack. Basically, this is a movie about about a crazy person who kidnaps Kiefer Sutherland's girlfriend, played by Sandra Bullock, who's barely in the film, and then
best choice in the film.
Because I know you don't like Sandra Bullock. I
mean for her.
Oh, I see. So Jeff Bridges plays this psychopath kidnapper guy who kidnaps Sandra Bullock, and Kiefer Sutherland is looking for 3 years, and it's played up like a huge giant deal in the press and everywhere. He's practically a celebrity, based on the fact that he doesn't give up trying to find his girlfriend that randomly disappeared in the middle of a gas station. And then the whole movie is about him both trying to find her and dealing with his current girlfriend, who is upset with him because he's still trying to find her. And I gotta tell you, Eric, this movie is just one faulty premise after another.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to start at the beginning. Well, there's kind of 2 beginnings.
Yeah, there are. That's part of why it's so irritating. Why do we have to spend 20 minutes with Jeff Bridges at the beginning?
And I looked, and that's not how it was in the original film. That's one thing they did better is you see him kidnap her, and then you get flashbacks with him. When you started this, had you read like the synopsis of this film?
No, I went in cold.
I meant like the little like Netflix blurb.
Yes.
Okay, because I didn't read that. I didn't know anything. When this film starts, I thought Jeff Bridges was crazy and imagining things.
I did too, actually, for a minute.
So that ending was just boring, or that opening was just boring. And when Jeff Bridges first shows up and he's talking to his daughter and he's doing an accent, but I thought he was doing like a mock accent, like in character. His accent's all over the place in this film.
I don't know where he's supposed to be from.
I don't know what he's doing in this film. But so that's just kind of long and boring. Then we get to the second opening, which is we get introduced to Kiefer Sutherland and Sandra Bullock, and immediately they make me not like Kiefer Sutherland. he gets so, Sandra Bullock and Kiefer Sutherland are on vacation, are driving somewhere, and their car runs out of gas in the middle of a tunnel. And she's angry at him because she told him a number of times to stop and get gas. He's like, no, we can make it. And I don't know who does that. Like, that felt really weird.
Yeah, it did. It didn't make any sense. They're on a vacation. Of course you periodically stop for gas on vacation. I don't understand that.
And she made it sound like they just passed a gas station. Like, if you're that low... Okay, regardless. Okay, so they stop...
Well, let me just say this real quick, too. Yeah, we don't want to belabor that point, but really, as a writer, why isn't your premise just the car breaks down?
Yeah. Well, and they actually set it up, and it's kind of scary because a truck almost hits them almost immediately.
Yeah.
And it's really dark, and they can barely see anything, and she's looking for a flashlight. And he yells at her. He's just like, leave the flashlight. And he walks off and leaves her there. And immediately I was like, I don't like you. You're not nice. And then he comes back, and you think she's gone. I was like, okay, he's gonna think he was a jerk, and it's gonna be kind of like a redemption thing. Like, he's gonna feel like it was his fault. Nope, she's just there. Okay, the way doesn't it feel like that's when she should get kidnapped?
I agree with you, because they kind of pseudo play it like, because they have this stupid thing where it's like, oh, I'll never do this to you again, I promise, and then she gets kidnapped. So I feel like they kind of want you to think that he feels bad because they made this pact, which you should never have to make pact, because you should be smart enough to not leave your girlfriend in the middle of a freaking dark tunnel.
Yeah, it would have been one thing if they were broken down on the side of the road. They almost die before he leaves.
And then he just walks off.
Yeah, that was, like immediately just, it started me off on the wrong foot with the character. And
what could they possibly do to make me like this guy?
And then later, Jeff Bridges says something about, like, you did this for so long because you made a pact, and I was like, that was a joke? Like, that wasn't like a real thing. Like, it was them goofing around.
Well, you know what? I didn't see it that way. I thought it was just really sappily written.
Oh, well, he's like smirking through it. So I thought it was just like a weird couple thing. It was
supposed to be them making up. It was that over the top, Eric. I really thought it was they're making up, and so now they're being all. I mean, like that's how this movie works. You're either really depressed or really happy. Remember that later on, his current girlfriend, whenever she's upset, she's crying. No matter what it is she's upset about.
Yeah, I have issues with
always crying.
Current girlfriend.
Oh, no, we'll talk about that, because it's preposterous. By the way, I want to first of all say, before we go any further, that I really hope people didn't actually end up sitting down and watching this one with us.
Yeah, I hope so, too.
Obviously, we're hoping people do that much of the time, but this time, I feel bad for anybody that watched all of this. If you did, kudos to you, well done. If you didn't, this really is going to be probably half an hour, 40 minutes of us just complaining about this, because it's terrible. But I don't know, you might get a laugh or two out of some of the crazy things we will inform you that are here. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I want to stress for anyone listening that hasn't watched this yet, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know if it's going to be funny and we're going to make jokes. This is not a funny, bad movie. This is a painfully boring, bad movie.
And if you watched it and you liked it, your taste is really interesting. Let me just say, I never begrudge anybody what they like, but I'm really impressed with anybody who got any enjoyment out of this film.
Well, what's even more annoying is there's a couple of points where I thought it was going to go somewhere possibly interesting. I'm like, okay, everything was really boring up until this point, but maybe it's going to turn around. So we cut to 3 years later.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I don't know why it's a filmmaking mistake not to show her get kidnapped. Because if they'd shown her getting kidnapped, and then Kiefer Sutherland's looking for her and freaks out, fine. Like, thematically that works. The way they play it, it looks like he went into a store, came out, she wasn't there, and then immediately, a switch flips. He's like, my girlfriend's missing. Can someone please help me? Like, it's not even like him looking for her for 10 minutes. Like, immediately she's not there, and he is acting like she's been missing for hours.
Yeah, it was a huge mistake to show Jeff Bridges at the beginning, like we said earlier, because we're supposed, okay, there's this creepy guy, so I guess that's what happened to her. But it's really weird because it's so long before we have any confirmation that he's the guy that did it.
There was a point where I was like, is he not the guy?
I mean, I was always pretty sure he was. Mostly
I was too, but there was a point. There was one scene where it cut over to him. I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's gonna help him because like he's keeping track of him, and I was like, oh, maybe this is a different film than what I thought it was. No.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. It just those cuts aren't. I mean, like what they chose to show and what they chose to cut are kind of backwards. And what ends up, and as I said, it's a series of faulty premises. One of the faulty premises is Kiefer Sutherland's character just hangs out outside in the parking lot for half an hour without even thinking to go in and look for her.
Yep.
That's ridiculous. Why? Like you're on a road trip. She went in for sodas. She went in for a soda and beer. Why would you, like, wait half an hour before it finally occurred to you, wow, she has been in there a long time.
Yeah.
So, like, he's already got 2 giant strikes against him. So, I know I'm jumping around, but then when you get later, and you have this ridiculous line where his present girlfriend says, I know I'm not as smart as you, that's when I completely lost it. This guy is a complete idiot. I don't like him. I don't like anything he does. He doesn't act like a human being. But then she goes on and starts not acting like a human being also, and I realize it's that kind of film.
Yeah. Which was weird because there was a couple like stray lines of dialogue where I was like, oh, that sounds like something a person would say. There were these really weird moments where I was like, was there like a second writer who like threw in like a couple of lines that sound like people talk?
Well, I know you said you wanted to go linearly, so 3 years later.
Yeah, okay, so we cut to 3 years later, which is really where everything starts falling apart. Because, again, going back to the summary of the original film, apparently in the original film, when we cut to 3 years later, he has a current girlfriend. There's this weird thing where, like, it cuts to 3 years later, and he meets this girl, and then it kind of, like, jumps again, and they've been together for a while.
Which was completely jarring and out of place.
Yeah, okay. So, she's an awful human being. She's so upset that he's still looking for his missing girlfriend. I couldn't... And it pushes it to a point where, like, he has, like, a secret room of like, newspaper clippings and, like, him trying to find her. And she's upset that he has it. And it's kind of weird that he has it, but at the same time, she pushed so hard for him to... And like, he's like, look, if she came back, I wouldn't get back with her. I would stay with you. I love you, but I need to know. Like, I've been doing this for 3 years. I need to find out.
Part of what made him so unsympathetic to me, too, was that it seemed like morbid curiosity. It didn't even seem like he really cared what happened to her.
Yeah, it was really awkward and uncomfortable. And there were also all these things that didn't add up. The biggest one being, she has this line where she's like, well, that girl treated you like crap, and you're still looking for her. And I'm like, really? Where did That's not what we saw. We saw the opposite.
We saw she seemed to be, I mean, she seemed kind of like an airhead, but she seemed nice.
Yeah.
I was like, what's that about? Like they never showed us that. So, I mean, part of the problem is we don't know anything about their relationship. We don't know how serious they were before she got kidnapped. So I mean, like, none of these things add up. Why is he so obsessed with finding her? But then at the same time, if they were really close, if your girlfriend got kidnapped, whether or not you moved on, you'd still want to know what happened to her. So it doesn't bother me that he's still looking for her. But Eric, the big thing that I could never get my head around.
Did he move to that town just to keep looking for her? He's now living there, right?
I guess.
Because I was kind of unclear, because everything seems to happen where they were. I guess he moved there just to keep, I don't know.
Here's the thing that I couldn't get my mind around. There's something that is never mentioned that bothers me constantly. Where is her family?
Oh yeah, good point. You know what? I didn't even think of that.
So what, this girl, like nobody's looking for? Like, the police won't take Kiefer Sutherland seriously because they think that his girlfriend just up and left him and that he's trying to find her and she doesn't want to be found. But, like, is anybody else looking for her?
That was one of the lines.
She really was kidnapped and buried alive. So, like...
That was one of the lines that felt like a human thing. That actually felt like a human line is when the cop goes, "Did you have a fight?" And he goes, "Well, we had a thing." I was like, that sounds like something somebody would say. And then the rest of the conversation, I was like, this is the worst cop ever.
Yeah, then it immediately degenerates from there. That's high praise, Eric. I like the line, "We had a thing."
It sounds like something somebody would say.
Yeah, I can't believe that there's nothing about her immediate family looking for her or anything.
Yeah,
It's like she never existed.
She vanished.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. So linearly.
Well, because a lot of my complaints are going to come when we get to the confrontation between Kiefer and Jeff Bridges.
Well, I'm glad we're going linearly because we'll actually get to my favorite complaint within anyway.
Because I as we go on, I start having major philosophical issues and I start having major thematic issues where I think it's supposed to be presenting something that I wasn't getting before. But okay, so it's because to get to a certain point, I have to go forward to go backwards. Because I need to get to Jeff Bridges' motivation. Because it comes back to here and stops making sense.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I guess this is kind of what happens next, because he has a tiff with his girlfriend, and then Jeff Bridges contacts. He stops looking for, Keith Sutherland stops looking for his girlfriend. Jeff Bridges is saddened by this, because he's been keeping track of it. And he does he call or does he sends a note, right? How does he get in contact with?
I think he does both. I'm not sure. We'll get to that because the phone call thing is a big thing for me.
Yeah, the phone call thing's really weird.
But he sends him a note and tells him, well, here's the thing. This is before he and his girlfriend break up, right? Jeff Bridges sends him a note and is like, meet me at this cafe.
Oh.
So Kiefer Sutherland has stopped looking for her, and then he's like, send me here's this note, come meet me at this cafe. So he brings her with him, and then he's just like, I can feel him staring at me. He's here somewhere.
Wait, hold on. I want to rewind for a second, because there is a moment where Kiefer Sutherland does the smartest thing I've ever seen in the film.
Okay.
When he's looking for Sandra Bullock, before he goes off to look for her, he leaves a note at the car that says, I've gone looking for you, stay by the car.
You're right, that is the most intelligent thing he does in the whole movie.
I think it's the intelligent thing I've ever seen in the movie. Most people, things go bad because they just walk away. Leaving a note on the car to say, look, I'm looking for you, you were taking a long time, I couldn't find you, if you come back, just stay by the car. I was so impressed by that. I'm just gonna say.
It's easy to be impressed by that in a film where where nobody ever realizes that getting in a car with a stranger is a bad idea.
Yeah, because as we know from historical evidence, psychopaths never ever have family.
Through the entire movie, every time somebody gets in a car with him or with somebody else, I cringe.
Yep. Don't we teach this to 5-year-olds in kindergarten?
When Jeff Bridges' daughter later on gets in the car with Kiefer Sutherland.
What is that?
I was like, well, anyway, this is such a hard movie to talk about.
Okay, so Jeff Bridges meets with Kiefer Sutherland and says that he's the man that took Kiefer Sutherland's girlfriend.
Yes.
And he says the only way to find out what happened to her is to go through what she went through. I have this coffee. It's important that it's coffee because I'm going to get back to that. I would also like to note, I don't think we ever see anybody drinking coffee before this point.
Nope.
Okay, nobody ever drinks coffee before this.
I don't think. If so, it's so subtle it doesn't matter. Oh, no, well, actually, I'm sorry. Can I say one thing about that?
Yeah.
There is a mention of it earlier on in the film, to be fair. Right when we jump to the 3 years later, after the opening events.
Oh, does his new girlfriend cut her off?
Hold on. Yeah, it doesn't even let him start. He goes into this place and he looks haggard like he hasn't slept in several days, and he says, I want coffee, and she gives him milk.
Who does that, by the way?
Well, and I love that right after that he says, how long have you worked here?
Okay.
That's funny.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, go ahead. So I'm just saying, it was set up, but not in any kind of,
You know what I'm setting up with this coffee thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So Jeff Bridges gives Kiefer Sutherland, poison coffee. He says the coffee takes 5 minutes to take effect, it will knock you out.
15 minutes.
15, so, yeah, sorry, not 5, 15 minutes. And Kiefer Sutherland drinks it. There are 2 correct choices here, neither of which is drinking the coffee. The first one is calling the police.
Yes, why doesn't anyone do that in this movie?
The second one is just beating the snot out of him and saying, "Where's my girlfriend?"
Which she's already done.
Well, it gets done a little bit later, but just Kiefer Sutherland's a better fighter than this guy. This guy is clearly like some kind of book smart, like that kind of guy. Kiefer Sutherland can beat this guy up and make him tell him.
He's a science teacher.
Yeah, Kiefer Sutherland can make this guy tell him where his girlfriend is.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? That's a really good point. This guy is going to grow up and become Jack Bauer. And he can't make puny Jeff Bridges tell him what happened to his girlfriend, because he keeps holding that over his head. Well, if you kill me or if you hurt me too much, then you'll never find out. And I was just like, wow, really?
Well,
because I'm pretty sure he could make you tell him if you really wanted to.
Yeah, which is we're gonna get to this. Okay.
Or at least call the police and then let them put him in an interrogation room.
And then we get the line where I was like, okay, maybe something else is going on here. Because he says, "I didn't kill her." He says those words.
Wait, he does?
I think he does.
I don't think he does. I don't think he ever says that.
Okay, because he keeps the way he words it. It's weird a lot of times.
No, he just won't answer that question. I mean,
I thought he said no, because he goes. I think he asked him, "Did you kill her?" And he goes, "Well, the only way to know what happened to her." The way he words it, it alludes to the fact that she might not be dead.
Yeah. I mean, he's suggesting that.
And I was like, oh, maybe she's not dead. Maybe there is something else interesting going on.
Right. Sure.
Spoiler warning: there's not.
No, she was buried alive. That was it.
So he has to drink this coffee and then get in the car with Jeff Bridges.
Yep, and then he buries him alive.
Oh, actually, there's a whole section I just skipped, which is my big problem with the film, because I was confusing the first time he gets in the car with when he gets in the car with the coffee. He goes on a whole long car ride with Jeff Bridges.
All the way back to the gas station for no reason.
Yeah, okay. So this is where a lot of my issues with the film come from. First of all, we get this setup that he's claustrophobic, and it's the worst setup I've ever seen. Because they get pulled over by a cop, and the cop comes up, and the cop tells Jeff Bridges to buckle his seatbelt, and he goes, I'm claustrophobic, I have a doctor's note. And again, because the cops are all useless in this film, they're like, whatever, just buckle up. So Jeff Bridges at nauseum explains why he did what he did. And not only is it a bad explanation, but it doesn't make sense with the rest of the film. Okay, so he says that him and his family were out camping or walking around or something. And they saw that there was a girl that fell in a lake. And he jumps in to save her so that his daughter thinks he's a hero. And then he has this thought, if I can do something that's truly heroic, can I do something truly evil? I have so many issues with this. First of all, he didn't do something truly heroic because he did it for the wrong reasons. He didn't do it altruistically. But I feel like this entire idea would have been much, much better if he'd been like a retired firefighter or a retired cop, or like somebody that had done good his entire life, and then was like, I've spent my entire life doing good, can I do something truly bad?
Well, let me stop you for a second because there's a couple of things about that. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. I have no idea what any of that means. The first thing is he doesn't just say the idea isn't just. Now, I'm not saying this is a good idea because it doesn't make any sense. But the idea that he says isn't just can I do something truly evil. It's that he says I can't be sure that means I'm a good person until I've attempted true evil.
That doesn't make any sense.
That's the distinction. But I'm just saying that's actually what it is he says. The other thing that was really stupid about it is that he has this other flashback before that where he's talking about how he was like 12 years old, and the whole idea is that he seems to have a mental condition that takes away his inhibitions. So what makes him crazy...
He's a sociopath.
Yeah, what makes him crazy, of course, is that he's a sociopath. There's nothing that stops him from hurting others or from hurting himself, importantly. So when he was 12... he jumped off a balcony just because he could, and there was nothing stopping him from doing it, and including anything in his brain. What was dumb was he connects that to jumping into water.
Yeah.
Now he's like, well, just like when I jumped off the balcony onto the ground, there was nothing that held me back. I just didn't even think about it. I just jumped in. Yeah, well, it was like 5 feet off the ground, and it was water, and anyone capable of swimming would have done precisely the same thing.
And I think that maybe the writer doesn't understand what being a sociopath means, because you're right, he doesn't have like his inhibitions, that he can just do whatever. That doesn't mean you don't feel pain.
Yeah.
Because the way they treat it is, later in this film, he becomes like Jason Voorhees. Just because you don't care if you get hurt doesn't mean you don't get hurt.
It was bizarre. I mean, and I want to say this. This is the worst villain motivation I've ever seen, and I review superhero films.
Okay, so then he explains that he's been following Kiefer Sutherland and him looking for his wife because Kiefer Sutherland is the only person he's ever met that's like his equal. There is nothing that he does in this entire film that is as driven as Kiefer Sutherland looking for his girlfriend for 3 years. I don't understand what is similar about these two people
at all. He's like, you looked like you would make a worthy adversary. I was like, for what? Looking for things and not finding them?
He locks him in a room that's just an I Spy room. You can't come out till you find the magnifying glass and the rubber duck.
I mean, I guess it's just straight up determination, but like, what was this guy's determination on top of it? There's nothing that connects
Jeff
them.
Bridges.
No, these are not. It likes to play like it's two sides of the same coin, but these coins are from opposite sides of the universe.
Yeah, there's nothing familiar about them, and then I'm really confused. Like, he's disappointed when Kiefer Sutherland stops and doesn't put up a new poster. Once, by the way, in 3 years, for all he knows, he went on vacation or something, or he was following a lead in another city, like whatever. So, he's gonna do it to Kiefer Sutherland. Can you explain to me why he's gonna do to Kiefer Sutherland what he did to his girlfriend?
I have no idea. I got nothing. I guess he just wants to beat this great adversary at something. And the thing is, he wanted to do this evil thing. He wanted to see if he was capable of it. Well, he knows he's capable of it. He did it. I don't know why.
And what does that mean for him for the next 3 years? Learning this.
I don't know. And I got another question for you too. There is clearly something really wrong in this guy's brain every time he talks to someone. How did he keep a wife and have a kid?
I have no idea. He is really creepy and really weird. This is not like when you see like on TV when somebody turns out to be like a serial killer and everybody's like, "Oh, I had no idea they was the nicest person." He's weird.
I also thought they were he's really bizarre. He's like obsessed with chloroform, and anybody that pretends to chloroform an invisible person is bizarre in my book. But then at first at the beginning of the movie, I really thought this was just a guy obsessed with chloroform. Because what was weird was, did you notice? He chloroforms himself. At the beginning of the film. I was like, why did he do that? But then, like, I don't
I
know.
think he just wanted to make sure it works.
Well, later in the movie, I thought they were doing something. Again, I had what you had, where every now and again I was like, well, that's interesting. And I was like, wait, no, it's not. Where like his daughter seems to be kind of as weird as he is in places. And she has this obsession with getting her dad to cheat on her mother.
Yeah, that's really weird.
And I have no idea why. And what's weird is, like, it seemed like it's just because of literature she's reading. And then his wife keeps thinking that he's having an affair. And I guess it makes sense that she thinks that because he's always off at this cabin, and what he's really doing is burying, I guess, one person alive and then hanging out there, because I really don't know why else he's out there. And anyway, I just thought of that. It's like, well, I buried one person alive. I guess I better stay out here. And but what was really weird about it was I kept thinking, okay, maybe they're doing this thing where his daughter is going to turn into him or something. Then you get to the end of the movie, and there's all this talk about how she's all like innocent and pure and great, and I was just like, no, she's a freaking lunatic.
I don't know.
Possibly a lunatic. I know
what the line is that made me think that he hadn't killed her.
Yeah.
Because it's during this conversation. He says, I had to do the worst thing to her that I could think of.
Oh, I wanted to talk about that.
And Kiefer Sutherland says something about killing her. He goes, well, death isn't the worst thing I could think of. So I'm like, okay, so he didn't kill her. Did he, like, take her to, like, a hippie commune? Like, does he hate hippies? like, what did he do to her?
Here's what was bizarre about it. Because before that, in the same conversation before that, Kiefer Sutherland asked the obvious question. And I liked that this was in there. He says, did you rape her?
Right.
And he says, no, I didn't rape her. And then they continue to talk, and he says, is she dead? And he says, well, killing a person is not the worst thing that I could come up with. When you find out at the end that what he did was bury her alive, I mean, that's pretty bad. But, and I mean, this is dark, and I don't mean this as a joke, but I'm a little surprised he didn't also rape her.
Well,
you see what I'm saying? Because I mean, like what he did to her is not the worst thing that I think your average person could come up with.
It's claustrophobic.
I guess that, yeah, the worst thing for him.
Yeah, the worst thing you could think of, which by the way, that should have been set up throughout the film.
No,
it should not have had one line that said, "Oh, I'm claustrophobic."
Here's my point. Again, my point is, it was weird that was set up because when he says, "Did you rape her?" and then later on he says, you know, I thought of something worse than death. I was like, what? You've already mentioned one of the worst things I could think of.
Yeah, well, not just that, but
that was the problem, is that they already made my mind go to a really dark place, and then by the end when we found out what really happened, I was like, man, that's not the worst thing it could have been.
I understand thematically what it's supposed to be, because he's claustrophobic.
Yeah.
I get it. Here's the problem. I don't care if you're claustrophobic. You can think of something worse than that. Read a Stephen King book. Watch Saw. Like, there are worse things you can do to people.
And the claustrophobia thing is not very prominent in the film.
It happens once when
it's mentioned one time. In fact, I gotta be honest with you, Eric, I didn't even put two and two together and realize that's why she was put in a box.
That's
until you just now said it. No, you're right. I guess I'm dumb, but
no, it's not you. It's the film.
But here's the thing: we never see him deal with claustrophobia. It's put on a seatbelt. I'm claustrophobic. That's a throwaway line.
I didn't realize it till I read the synopsis for the original film, and it specifically notes that we find out he's claustrophobic. I was like, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah, that's the reason.
It's so poorly done. And the way it's done in the scene, I didn't think he was really claustrophobic. I thought he was screwing with the cop.
If it were me, I might have opened the movie up with, like, him being claustrophobic somewhere, maybe a flashback of him as a kid being locked in a closet or something, like something.
And does it seem weird that someone with no inhibitions is also claustrophobic? Does that seem weird? Like, that seems like it's at odds.
Maybe.
I mean, I'm not an expert, so maybe I'm wrong, but that feels weird. Okay, so
Can we talk a little bit now that we've gotten basically toward the end of the film? Can we backtrack just a second?
Yeah.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the crazy current girlfriend. Because the crazy current girlfriend, and what's weird about it is she really at the beginning seems like she's supposed to be kind of the anchor.
Yeah.
For a minute. And then she goes, like we said, she goes kind of off, half-cocked, freaking out because this guy is still, she thinks is still in love with this girl that he's looking for. Okay, whatever. That was all ridiculous. But she does the most passive-aggressive thing I have ever seen in a film. When she finally decides she's done with him,
I think I know what you're talking about.
Because he has that, and this also goes into the funniest thing in the movie. So let me get through this.
Well, it should be noted that this film is either definitively showing us how decadent the 90s were, or the filmmakers think that everyone has enough money to have a home and a nice little cabin. Because there are two characters, and both of them own a home and like a getaway place.
Yeah, well, it could be maybe based on income, but no, but that's stupid because she's not a professional.
Well, I think it's weird that Kiefer Sutherland has like this getaway place that he goes to where he's got all the crazy stuff. How does he afford that? Yeah. What does he do? It looks like he spends his whole day looking for his wife or girlfriend.
Especially because at the end, remember, Jeff Bridges says you've lost everything. You have no money. Well, anyway, let me get through this. So she, in her rage, goes to his place and records over his answering machine message and says, you've reached the home of Jeff Harriman. That's the name of Kiefer Sutherland's character, not to be confused with the captain of the Enterprise B from Star Trek Generations, which I never would have done. Who is John Harriman, and then Khan in Star Trek Into Darkness is John Harrison. It's all very confusing. She goes to his place, records over his answer machine message, is like, you've reached the home of Jeff Harriman. He's not, and his ego. And she's like, and I've moved, and I hate this guy, and blah, 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 and like, all this stuff. And then it gets even worse. Like, it was stupid. And then it gets even worse because, and the reason it's stupid, by the way, is just because she is overreacting like crazy, as we've alluded to. She's overreacting like crazy. Well, she goes to a bar with a friend of hers and gets drunk, and thinks it would be funny to give her friend the phone and call Jeff's house so that she can hear this brilliant answering machine message.
I was confused by this, but I'll get to that in a second.
That she came up with. And so they call, and he's already changed his answering machine message, which, by the way, I don't know when he had a chance to do that, because he's been out of town this entire time. Anyway, and remember, there's no cell phones in this movie. This is 1993. And, so they call his house, and the machine message is different. Then, they get to an answering machine, or they get to a message that Jeff Bridges left, which is what tips her off as to where he is. And she starts investigating and is able to find him. Okay, Eric, you know this, but when you call someone's answering machine message, you don't then get to hear all of the messages that left on their answering machine.
Okay, hold on, there's two things here.
That was the most bizarre thing I have ever seen, or one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Like, I'm supposed to buy this? Okay, so whoever made that answering machine is, like, breaking, laws of personal privacy.
Well, you can do that.
Okay.
I've seen it in a number of films. There was an episode of Seinfeld that there is a way to call your answering machine and hear your messages. But she didn't do that. That's what annoyed me.
That was just someone just calling the house.
Yeah. I don't know what that was, because like, oh, it's gonna be so funny. We're gonna listen to this, and then she hears this message, and I was like, did I miss something? Was she calling to check the messages, like the last messages they'll get before she leaves, or
a series of faulty premises? That was the silliest thing I've ever seen.
The other thing is, why did Jeff Bridges leave a voice message?
I don't know.
He had
Send a
him.
note.
Yeah. I don't understand.
So anyway, you want to go to the end of the film and...
Okay, so this is the big difference between the original and this film. Is the ending of the original, Dutch Keith Sutherland wakes up in a box and he's been buried alive, and then it cuts to Dutch Jeff Bridges reading a newspaper and it says like, oh, it's weird, Dutch Keith Sutherland disappeared just like Dutch Sandra Bullock. In this film, and here's the thing, when Jeff Bridges showed up to talk to Keith Sutherland, and Keith Sutherland drinks the thing and goes to get in the car, or maybe it's the first time they meet, whatever. When Jeff Bridges and Keith Sutherland meet, I was like, surely there's about 10 minutes left of this film. And I checked the time, and there's 40 minutes left.
I did the same thing.
I was like, it's wrapping up. So, the original film ends with him dying. And again, I'd have to see how it plays, because I think thematically what we're supposed to get is that Keith Sutherland is too obsessed. I think that's what's supposed to be going on. Because if the original ending was he dies, and the description for the original film says his girlfriend is being more and more put off by how obsessed he is, I think the idea was supposed to be his life becomes consumed with just finding her.
Yeah. Hey, Eric, there's something you keep banging against your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is
Anyway.
it better now?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, sorry. So, I think that's what's supposed to be going on, and maybe I'd have to see the original film. I think what's supposed to be gotten is that Dutch Keith Sutherland gets so obsessed that he becomes like Jeff Bridges, and this is somehow punishment for that. I think that's what's supposed to be going on.
Yeah, that's what I got too.
But this is America, and we don't do endings like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's got to end like a slasher film.
So the new girlfriend goes to Jeff Bridges' house. Does Jeff Bridges say his name on the answering machine?
I don't remember.
Because somehow she finds out that it's him and goes to his house.
She got that. She got that information from the license plate.
Okay.
Remember, she went to the police station
and
figured out the address and then figured out who lived there.
And the police, again, are not helpful.
No, they're idiots.
Man, she has the answering machine message. Why doesn't she just give it to the cops? It says, I am the man that took your wife.
Does it?
Yeah, remember, the answering machine message is...
Oh, that's right. No, you're right. Yeah, wow. Just go to the cops. Movie's over. Thank God.
So, she doesn't do that. She goes to Jeff Bridges' house and talks to his daughter, and his daughter wants to go to... Is it a boy's house or is it a party?
I don't know.
Somewhere she's not supposed to be.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And she agrees to give her a ride, which is dumb on both sides.
I was ready for her to whip out some coffee. Coffee, drink it.
Yeah, I was ready for his daughter to be as crazy as he is and be in on it.
Yeah, me too, because she seems pretty crazy to me.
That scene bothered me so much because, one, why would you get in the car with a stranger? And two, this is the guy that stole your boyfriend's ex? Why would you do any favors for anyone in this family?
Yeah, I have no idea. Well, let's get to the end of this, because I think we've now discussed this more than anyone in the history of the world.
Okay. So Jeff Bridges follows her around. They fight forever. It takes literally from minute 120 of the film to the rest of my life for this fight to be resolved.
Yeah.
It keeps going. And then she actually is kind of confident and smart and says, "Oh, I know who your daughter is. I know who your wife is. I've got your daughter." And she gets Jeff Bridges to drink the coffee. And in what may be the only, like, actually well-written sequence, is he pretends to pass out. Because he didn't tell her about the 15-minute thing.
Right.
I thought that was actually kind of well done.
Well, I did too. The problem, of course, was this movie is so inconsistent that as soon as that happened, I went, well, wait a minute, why did he pass out right away? Like, I didn't trust it, and then when he came back, I was like, nah, that's too good for this movie.
And then we continued the fighting and the chasing.
Yep.
Forever.
Yeah.
And then she gets Keith Sutherland out. He picks
How
up.
does she know where he's buried?
I don't know.
Yep, she finds it, digs him out.
And it looks like it was above ground.
And
it
then
didn't even look like it was buried.
And then he's in a box. And then Jeff Bridges comes at her with a hacksaw and tries to, and what was really ludicrous about it too was the kind of saw it was. I couldn't believe he went for the neck. It was really strange.
Yeah.
I was just like, really? All right. So he goes for the neck, and then Kiefer Sutherland conveniently
has an axe.
Wakes up enough to attack him. Yeah, and has an axe.
Because of course he was buried with that.
And then throws it between his teeth in his mouth. And then the movie is over, but not before the most obligatory terrible joke ever, which is they go to a restaurant and, oh, would you like coffee? They bring coffee, and then it's, oh, we don't drink that anymore.
I have two problems with that.
Well, the first one I have is nobody at a restaurant that I've ever been to
brings that's it.
You order it.
Yep, that's it. No one brings
in the exact same way that they don't force you to drink milk if that's not what you ordered. What was your second problem with it?
That the rest of the film doesn't establish them. Like, I feel like that would have been a fine zinger if, like, Keith Sutherland was so obsessed that he just wasn't sleeping and kept drinking coffee to stay awake.
Which I think they did, but...
They kind of... Yeah. This is really bad. Okay,
so this film was not worth all the time we just spent talking about it.
No, it wasn't.
But I think Eric and I don't know why we just sat here and relived that. But we did.
Because you made me watch it.
I did, and I apologize. And you were very thorough, Eric. But anyway, I'm going to be a little more careful with my selections from now on. Anyway, so this was definitely the worst thriller I've ever seen.
Okay, so people also hate this movie. We talked about last episode. We went through like all the reviews.
Yeah.
Budget for this film was $23 million.
Wow, where did it go?
Which, wrap your head around that, because it cost more than Troll Hunter.
Where did it go? It cost a lot more than Troll Hunter.
It made $14,500,000. So like people didn't even watch this in theaters.
I wonder how much of that money went to Jerry Goldsmith.
Who's Jerry Goldsmith?
The composer.
The music by. Okay.
Who is one of my favorite composers, and he didn't do anything with this, but okay.
It feels like everybody showed up for a paycheck for this.
Clearly. Yeah, well, that's that's the big travesty, is these are decent actors. What happened?
I don't know.
Not to say, like you said, Jeff Bridges is terrible in this. Kiefer Sutherland does the best with what he's got.
Yeah, Kiefer Sutherland doesn't. I mean, Kiefer Sutherland just kind of does the Kiefer Sutherland thing in film. And when he's good, he's just kind of doing the Kiefer Sutherland thing. He's just bland here. Like, he doesn't have the intensity that I know him for.
Well, that's because he can't get his head around this character.
Yeah. Sandra Bullock is actually pretty good in the 5 minutes of the film she has.
She's there, yeah.
And then the Nancy Travis, who plays the new girlfriend, is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yep.
So, you want me to tell everybody what we're watching next week?
Yeah. So I don't know. Let me just end all that off with sorry everybody. And,
so I'm just gonna say
that was fun in its own way.
The film that we watched this week, Nigel Floyd, called A Misjudged Lobotomized Hollywood Remake. Right. The film we will be watching next week is in the Library of Congress for preservation in the United States National Film Registry. So we're stepping up.
Yeah, quite a lot.
We are going to be watching Chinatown, which is a 1974 noir film that's a film classic starring Jack Nicholson. It's really, really famous, and I've never seen it, and you've never seen it, so I figured we should see it.
Yeah, I'm excited. That ought to be fun.
Yeah.
I hope it's great.
It cannot be worse than this movie.
No, I'm not sure there's anything worse than this movie.
It's a what is this? What is the movie we just watched? What genre does it fall under?
What, a thriller?
No, it's a psychological thriller?
Yeah, psychological thriller,
It
right?
fails both psychologically and thrillery. And it doesn't even become a thriller until the last 4 hours of the film.
Yeah, I think we could have done without the first 12 hours, really. Well, anyway, like I said, sometimes you spin the wheel and the ball lands far, far away from any of the numbers that you put down. I'm sorry, what?
I was just going to say, I just want to reiterate, I know we just talked about it for an hour. It is not funny bad. Do not watch it.
So, next time, Chinatown. Looking forward to that. We'll see you again next week. And thanks very much for listening. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.